So why don't your helpers keep attacking while you eat? Or a busy boss? No, I can't do that. Jinwoo got fewer rewards the farther away he was from his team, but he didn't want to explain things like rewards to Jinyo, so he looked serious. Who knows what trouble they might get into? If I'm not watching. Oh, Jinwoo could almost feel Jinyo lose his appetite. Okay. Playtime was over. Should he test out this new ability now? Jinwoo finished eating, and put down his spoon. Skill Shadow Storage Level 2. This skill is special for his job. It doesn't use any magical energy. He can store shadow soldiers by bringing them into his shadow. He can bring them out, or put them back in whenever he wants. Number of shadows stored 840 out of 840 Level 2. Bonus sensory sharing. A shadow soldier he has stored can share what it sees and hears with him. The sensory sharing bonus was added to the shadow storage skill. Jinwoo had a special skill that let him experience what his shadow soldiers were sensing. This was really useful for seeing what was happening in different places without being there himself. He closed his eyes and activated sensory sharing. He felt connected to the shadow soldiers he had sent all over Korea. He had spread them out a lot. Jinwoo chose one soldier at random. It turned out to be the guard he had assigned to watch over Hain. He heard a splashing sound, like water hitting the floor. Since it wasn't raining, he wondered where the water was coming from. He didn't wonder for long, because he quickly saw Hain, without any clothes, standing in a steamy bathroom. Jinho was surprised by Jinwoo's reaction. Boss, did you doze off for a moment? No. It's nothing. Jinwoo shook his head. He thought about maybe taking Hain out to eat, to say he was sorry. Oh, hey, boss. Did you hear? Hear what? About the really big monster gate in Shinjuku. People think monsters might come out of it tomorrow. Time had passed quickly. Jinwoo nodded. It had already been 6 days since they started exploring these difficult dungeons. During that time Jinwoo hadn't been doing nothing. He was slowly gaining experience and had improved from level 103. This was his reward for working hard and focusing only on getting stronger. Jinwoo brought a black key out of his storage. It appeared in his hand. The key was called the Carton Temple's key. It told him how hard it would be to get it. But that information would be shown later. There were 26 hours, 51 minutes and 49 seconds left. Only one day remained. Jinwoo held the key tightly in his hand. His heart beat faster whenever he saw it. Stop. Jinyo, who had been looking at Gingress and Iron because of a trick Jinwoo played, was surprised. Not you. The shadow soldiers stopped when Jinwoo told them to. Grarn. Creatures with sharp teeth and weapons like curved knives and swords came from the other side of the cave. Jinwoo stood up and looked at the group before him. He had one more day. 24 hours remained. He smiled slightly as he held a special dagger from a powerful demon. The night before they planned to enter the dangerous dungeon, Yuri created a large magical circle around the city of Shinjuku. No one had ever seen a circle this big before. People had already been moved away from the area, but Yuri stayed to make sure everything was ready with the protective wall. The people from Japan watched the hunter with worry. Carefully watching what he said and did, Yuri rubbed his chin and looked concerned. This is strange. The interpreter's eyes got big. What? Was something wrong? No, it's not that. The barrier had been created perfectly. Yuri was sure this was the best magic he had ever done. I can feel someone nearby. What? Why else would his heart be beating so quickly? Yuri looked around carefully and shouted as loud as he could. Who's there? Where are you? But no one answered his voice in the empty streets. He waited, but there was only silence. The staff member wiped his forehead and tried to smile. There isn't anyone else here, is there? The big event is tomorrow, right? The man from Russia made a mean face at him. I didn't say it was a person, did I? I'm sorry. Yuri looked at the man with pity before turning away. Maybe I just thought I saw something. At the same time, a man with a hood was watching Yuri from a tall building far away. He noticed things easily, knowing where Yuri got his powers. This made sense. The hooded man then looked at something more important, a special doorway, ranked as S level. A strange and uneasy feeling hung around the place. The man pulled back his hood and everyone could see he was an Asian man in his late 30s. His beard was full and messy, and it showed who he was. Il Sung. He looked at the gate with sadness, then pulled his hood back up. Now it starts. Everything was going according to plan. People from all over the world came to Japan as reporters. Many of the reporters had covered wars before, so they knew reporting this event felt very dangerous. like being in a war themselves. Guards carefully watched the gate. The reporters pointed their cameras at the special area around the large gate, and the soldiers standing there. You could feel the worry and excitement in the air, and it seemed like something big could happen at any second. William Bell, a well-known reporter from England, was there with his helper, who looked nervous before asking a question. The best guns don't work on magical creatures, so why are the soldiers here? William took photos of the soldiers' serious faces as he answered. They are here to give people more time. What do you mean? They will make themselves noticeable so hunters can get ready to attack. They would also be used to distract others so people like us and those in charge could get away. Click. The next picture he took was of Shigeo Matsumoto, the president of the Hunters Association of Japan. He looked serious as he stood near the gate, talking with other officials. I guess there isn't much to be happy about right now. Click. You mean? The new assistant looked worried. They're protecting people? Actually, that's a good idea. What do you mean? You're here to help keep me safe. I'm sorry. The assistant was very surprised. William gently nudged him. Relax. You'll be in trouble if you're so worried. He smiled, and the young man felt a little better. I can't believe Mr. Bell can even tell jokes right now. The new reporter felt calmer after seeing how peaceful his mentor was. He also knew William joked around when things were really bad. The young man tilted his head back to look at the gate. What's gonna come out? William stopped adjusting his camera and looked where his assistant was looking. The gate was so big, it seemed to tower over everyone. William had reported on many strange gates opening up, because they often became places where wars were fought. He had even written a story about prisoners escaping from a scary place once, but this gate was different. It was much more unusual and dangerous than anything he had seen before. Just looking at the dungeon made him start to sweat. It wasn't surprising they hadn't sent anyone in to explore first. Even the most experienced hunters hadn't been brave enough to enter, so no one knew what magical creatures lived inside. William finally said, I don't know what will come out of there. But he gave a sad smile. I hope Yuri Orlov's force field is strong enough to stop it. Then his camera showed Yuri, who was checking his barrier. The Russian was smiling. Great. It's perfect. Yuri was very sure about his invention. It was really strong, also because he didn't want people to be upset. President Matsumoto had kept it a secret that he was paying Yuri, so everyone in Japan thought Yuri was doing this job because he wanted to help. Because of this, people in Japan gave a large amount of money to help him. The best thing was that he became very popular with the news media. Many reporters took risks to come to this dangerous place and write about his story. He gained both fame and wealth, everything he enjoyed from just one job. He said again, it's perfect. Today he would be remembered as the first person to successfully block an extremely difficult gate all by himself. He would have preferred to be known as the first person to clear such a gate, but someone else had already earned that honor. He was a fighter and Yuri helped others in a team, so they were very different. Yuri was happy being the best at what he did. That's right. The confident Russian took a small bottle out of his pocket. You could smell the alcohol from the bottle. Mr. Orlov, you shouldn't drink. The worker who was helping the famous hunter tried to stop him, but Yuri gave him a hard look. I'm celebrating. It's a toast. Calm down, you are about to see an amazing performance. But still, do you want to taste? It will help you feel better. President Matsumoto looked worried as Yuri put an arm around the handler's shoulders and offered him the flask. I can't believe someone like that is in charge of Japan's future. He sighed and turned to his assistant. How many of the strongest hunters are ready to go? 3, sir. Only 3. Only 3 of more than 10 of the strongest hunters answered. When the association asked for help, President Matsumoto's face looked older and more worried. He didn't have much power over the hunters anymore. After the bad thing that happened on Jeju Island, some people even said he was greedy, and that his actions caused the deaths of the strong hunters. Most of the other strong hunters didn't want to work with him anymore. Some even said they wouldn't follow the association's orders, as long as he was still president. If only Ryuji were still here. President Matsumoto's hands shook. Ryuji Goto used to be his close friend, and his death was very sad. But because of what happened, what was happening today was very important. If the Hunters Association could successfully close the dangerous gate, he would make things right. Gun He-go and Jin Woo-sung were key to this. And maybe someday Matsumoto could show those two he was just as strong. No matter what it took, it had to happen. President Matsumoto seriously watched the gate. His assistant checked the time and whispered, 3 minutes until the gate opens, sir. I know, said President Matsumoto. Many thoughts went through his mind as he looked at the hole in the sky. 2 minutes, 1 minute, 59 seconds. 58 seconds. Time passed quickly, until the dark barrier blocking the entrance started to disappear. The reporters shouted, "Ah! The gate is open. Here they come." Jinwoo tried to leave without being noticed, but he sat back down. His mother looked over from the TV to him. The news was all about the dangerous gate in Japan, and most channels were counting down to when monsters would come out. You're not going somewhere, are you? Sometimes a mother knows things even better than a skilled hunter. Jinwoo felt guilty, but he answered calmly. I have plans with someone. Plans. On a day like today. I made them a while ago. I didn't change them because what's happening is in Japan, so it doesn't involve me. His mother looked at him like she didn't quite believe him. But Jinwoo wasn't really being dishonest. I actually made plans with the system earlier. Hyunji looked at him for a moment then asked, so I don't need to worry. Jinwoo answered with confidence. No, you don't. He had been getting ready to avoid that very thing. Seeing how sure her son looked, Hyunji finally smiled. Okay. Be careful. Jinwoo smiled back at her. I'm going now. And with that, he left their apartment. They lived on the 9th floor, and Jinwoo noticed for the first time how slowly the elevator moved. He was restless because he couldn't wait to find out what kind of dungeon the black key would unlock. A chime sounded. The elevator doors opened onto the 1st floor, and a man Jinwoo had never met looked at him. The man didn't realize such a strong hunter lived in the building, so he looked surprised when he saw Jinwoo. Jinwoo walked past him and pulled his hood up. He started walking faster because he was excited. Once he was outside, he looked around to make sure no one was watching. Maybe the strange event in Japan was the reason. The streets were empty, so Jinwoo could carefully examine the black key without being seen. Item Kartanon Temple's key. How hard is it to get unknown type key? You have met all the requirements. This key will open the door to Kartanon Temple. You can use it at the special gate. The location of the gate will be shown when the time is up. Time left 100:12, just over 1 minute left. It's almost time. His heart began to beat faster. Boom. Boom. He spent the last minute listening to his heartbeat. He didn't need to look at a clock. Because of his hard training, he could keep time better than any watch. 3, 2, 1. Jinwoo opened his eyes after exactly 1 minute. A sound signaled the time was up. It showed him how much time he had left. It also said it would show where to go next. Jinwoo was surprised. But what was happening? The system showed the gate wasn't far away from where he was. He realized it was a place he recognized. He used his special phone to check the Hunter Association's website, and found a recent report about a gate opening there. He hadn't expected the key to work in that location. It felt like a surprise. He understood now that he had misinterpreted the information. The system had been correct all along. The message said the place where a gate would appear would be shown, but it didn't say a new gate would actually open. Jinwoo felt a little fooled. His fingers moved quickly on the phone screen. The information showed a group of hunters, called a guild, had already begun to investigate. The measurements showed it was a C-rank gate. It wasn't a very difficult gate, but the problem was that no one knew what creatures were inside. Luckily it was close by. The gate was 10 minutes away by car, and if he ran as fast as he could get there in 60 seconds. He became invisible using stealth and ran quickly using flash. He was going to the yard at Gina's school. The school was closed after what happened with the orcs, so it was unlikely anyone would get hurt. But the attack team was in danger. Jinwoo remembered the first time he went into the underground temple. It was scary with many close calls, and yet those memories were frightening, but they also made his heart beat faster. It was strange, but the temple actually made Jinwoo feel truly alive. For once, he didn't feel like an unimportant hunter. He felt like someone who could try to do anything. After walking through some narrow streets, Jinwoo saw the school building in front of him. He got to the school very quickly. In about a minute, the entrance to the underground area was in a corner of the schoolyard, and some workers from different groups were watching over it. Everything seemed quiet, and there weren't any big problems. When Jinwoo stopped hiding and walked toward them, things changed. What? The workers noticed him late, and hurried to stop him. "You can't come in here." Jinwoo lowered his hood, so they could see his face. Someone let out a surprised sound. "You." The worker at the entrance recognized Jinwoo. It was the same woman who wore glasses and who Jinwoo had met at the dangerous area on the highway. Jinwoo thought it would be simpler to talk to her, so he didn't pay attention to the other people and spoke directly to her. "You need to stop the raid right now." "What did you say?" She sounded surprised. "But the measurements show it's only a C-rank gate." Jinwoo shook his head. "If you don't, they'll all be killed." He turned to look at the gate. Couldn't they feel the scary, threatening energy coming from inside? "How long have they been in there?" Jinwoo asked quickly. The longer they stayed inside, the farther they would go, and the less likely they were to survive. The association employee, confused, replied, "About 2 hours." 2 hours, it was hard to tell if that was a long time or not. "Who are you? Are you with the group?" One of the team members held Jinwoo's shoulder and tried to make him face them. This person was annoyed at this stranger who had suddenly appeared. He had ignored most people nearby and was saying upsetting things about their team being in trouble. His hold was not strong, but Jinwoo went along with it and turned to the man. Showing his face would work better than trying to explain everything. When someone asks you a question, the guild member stopped talking as he looked closely at the man's face. "Just a moment. I think I've seen that person before, but where?" When he remembered the name, he stuttered. "Hunter Jinwoo Sung." He didn't expect to meet a very strong hunter near this smaller monster portal, and he had yelled at him. The surprised worker took his hand away and stepped back a little. I'm sorry, sir." Jinwoo didn't have time to worry about the rude person, because the clock was still ticking. He turned to the woman from the group. "I will bring them back." The representative was worried. This was the man who had walked out of a difficult red gate looking good, but now he seemed very upset, and believed the team inside this easier gate was in trouble. "What is happening? If you could just explain it to me." "There isn't time for that." Jinwoo stopped her. He really could have gone inside quietly using his hidden skills. He also could have found ways to distract these people from the gate, but Jinwoo didn't do those things because he wanted to be prepared for anything that might happen later. The worker from the association opened and closed her mouth, as she tried to decide what to do. Was it all right to let another hunter enter when a group with permission was already exploring the dungeon? Really, it wasn't a good idea, but she couldn't tell Jinwoo to stop, not with the way he looked. "Go ahead then, I'll see you later." Jinwoo quickly nodded and ran through the gate. You are now inside the dungeon. The bodies of magical creatures were all over the place, and their power stones had already been taken. The bodies of magical creatures from difficult dungeons were worth a lot of money, but those from easier dungeons were only valuable for special stones inside them. Jinwoo had seen this many times before. He closed his eyes and tried to sense where his team was, but he couldn't find them. Were they already gone? Jinwoo shook his head, trying to stay positive. The hunters who had recently died released energy, but Jinwoo couldn't feel it. As he looked around, he felt like he had been here before. This place seemed familiar, as if he knew this dungeon. Then he remembered. It was a copy of the dungeon, where he first got his powers. That meant he found the place where the entrance to the special double dungeon used to be, and there it was. It was just like before. He then understood why he couldn't feel the other hunters. This dungeon is extremely large. It had been that way the first time too. Even if they traveled as slowly as beginner adventurers, it would still take nearly an hour to get to the unusual door. If this underground area was really built the same way as the map showed, then he was quite far away from the team sent to investigate. It wasn't surprising. He couldn't sense the hunters with so little magical energy. Jinwoo looked down the passageway. There was only one tunnel, and like before, it was completely dark. But Jinwoo wasn't worried about the darkness. He could see much better now, and noticed a hidden path in the dark. His eyes glowed blue, like an animal that can see well at night. I can see. Jinwoo's eyes got used to the darkness, and he could clearly see inside the tunnel. Jinwoo took a deep breath and then ran very quickly. He moved away very quickly. It's hard to believe it used to take me almost an hour. His speed now was much faster than before. He suddenly noticed something. It was the strike squad. They had stopped, and at first Jinwoo thought they were fighting a battle, or maybe even hurt. But that wasn't what was happening. As he got closer, he heard them talking. So you want to go back now, that we've arrived? Tak Jinwoo stopped a short distance from the hunters, and couldn't help but chuckle at the conversation he recognized. He was glad though, because the team hadn't gone inside yet. They wouldn't have been talking so calmly if things weren't serious. Then Jinwoo heard a woman speak. So what should we do? We tried all our spells but we still couldn't open the door. Shouldn't we go back and ask a bigger group for help? I think that's the smartest thing to do. The hunters were discussing what to do in front of the door that wouldn't open. Jinwoo understood why they were thinking that way,